A 21-year-old college kid walked into a post office and mailed Pepsi a check for $700,000. What did he want? A t-shirt? A lifetime supply of soda? No. He wanted a military fighter jet, and he had the math to prove they owed him one. This is the story of the kid who called Pepsi's bluff and took them to federal court. It was 1996. Pepsi was at war with Coca-Cola, and to win over younger customers, they launched the biggest marketing campaign in the company's history. It was called Pepsi Stuff. The idea was simple. Buy Pepsi, collect points from the labels, trade those points for real prizes: t-shirts, sunglasses, leather jackets. The more you drank, the more you earned. To promote the campaign, Pepsi aired a television commercial, and this is where the trouble begins. The ad shows a cool teenager getting ready for school. He puts on a t-shirt, 75 Pepsi points, a leather jacket, 1,400 Pepsi points, sunglasses, 175 Pepsi points. Then the scene cuts to a school parking lot. Students are standing around, and from the sky, a Harrier fighter jet descends and lands right next to the bike rack. The kid climbs out. The text on screen reads, "Harrier fighter jet, 7 million Pepsi points." The whole country laughed. It was funny. It was absurd. Everyone knew it was a joke. Except a 21-year-old business student from Seattle named John Leonard. John didn't laugh. John grabbed a calculator. See, buried in the fine print of the Pepsi Stuff catalog was one tiny detail that Pepsi probably wished nobody would ever find. If you didn't want to collect points from labels, you could buy them directly, 10 cents per point. John did the math. 7 million points, 10 cents each. That's $700,000 for a Harrier jet that was worth $37.4 million. He wasn't crazy. He was right, at least mathematically, and he knew it. But he didn't have $700,000 sitting in his bank account. He was a college student, so he did what any ambitious business student would do. He went looking for investors. He found five people who believed in the math enough to put their money behind it. Together, they pooled $700,000. John Leonard then sat down and filled out an official Pepsi Stuff order form. Under the item column, he wrote one word: jet. He attached 15 original Pepsi labels, the minimum required to submit an order. He wrote a check for $700,008.50. The extra $8.50 covered the labels and shipping and handling. Then he sealed the envelope, walked to the post office, and mailed it to Pepsi headquarters. Now picture the scene. Some employee in the Pepsi mailroom opens this envelope. Inside is a check for $700,000 and a handwritten request for a military fighter jet. Pepsi did not laugh. A few weeks later, they sent the check back, unopened, with a polite letter that essentially said the jet in the commercial was a joke. It was never a real prize. Thanks for your enthusiasm, but no. John Leonard read that letter, and he didn't accept it. In his mind, Pepsi had made an offer, a public offer, on national television. They put a price on the jet. He met that price. He sent the payment. That's how a contract works. Offer, acceptance, payment. Done. So John Leonard, a 21-year-old college student, filed a lawsuit against PepsiCo, one of the largest corporations in the world. He sued them for breach of contract and fraud. The case was filed in Florida, but eventually landed in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York, and it was assigned to Judge Kimba Wood. Now, here's where this story becomes legendary. Not because of the verdict, but because of how the judge destroyed the argument. Judge Wood didn't just say no, she wrote one of the most entertaining legal opinions in American history, and she did it with a straight face.
First, she noted that the teenager in the commercial was, and I am quoting the actual court document, a highly improbable pilot, one who could barely be trusted with the keys to his parents' car, much less the prized aircraft of the United States Marine Corps. She pointed out that no school in America would provide a landing pad for a student's fighter jet. She pointed out that a Harrier jet is designed for, and again, this is a direct quote, attacking and destroying surface and air targets, armed reconnaissance, and offensive and defensive anti-aircraft warfare. She concluded that no reasonable person could have genuinely believed that Pepsi was offering a military combat aircraft in exchange for drinking soda. The legal term she used was puffery. The ad was exaggerated marketing, not a real contract, not a real offer. End of story. John Leonard lost, completely, but he didn't quit. He appealed. The case went to the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, and their response might be the most savage one-liner in legal history. They wrote, "We affirm for substantially the reasons stated in Judge Wood's opinion." That's it. One sentence. Translation, she already said everything. We have nothing to add. Go home. But the story doesn't end with John Leonard. It ends with Pepsi, because here's what Pepsi did after the lawsuit. They didn't pull the commercial. They kept running it, but they made two changes. First, they changed the price of the Harrier jet from 7 million Pepsi points to 700 million, 100 times more, just to make absolutely sure no one else would try what John Leonard tried. And second, they added 3 small words to the bottom of the screen. Just kidding. 2 words and a price change. That's what one college student forced a billion-dollar corporation to do. Oh, and one more thing. The Pentagon, the actual United States Department of Defense, had to release an official public statement clarifying that Harrier jets cannot be sold to civilians without full demilitarization. The actual American military had to respond to a soda commercial. John Leonard never got his jet. He never got a penny, but his case is now taught in law schools across America as the textbook example of what counts as a real offer and what's obviously a joke. And in 2022, Netflix released a full documentary series about the whole saga. They called it Pepsi, Where's My Jet? Because 26 years later, the world still can't get over the college kid who read the fine print better than the company that wrote it. One commercial, one loophole, one kid with a calculator and absolutely zero fear, and a billion-dollar corporation that learned the hard way. Always read your own fine print.